So, let's just dive right in. What if that feeling of being broken, the anxiety or the depression that just won't seem to go away, what if it isn't a sign that you're failing? What if it's actually a sign that you are deeply, profoundly connected to the world? Today, we're going to explore a really powerful way to reframe personal struggle, and it comes from a 50-year spiritual practice. And this is the admission that kicks the whole thing off. It's so raw, it's honest, and I bet it's something a lot of us can relate to. Anyone who's ever tried to fix themselves. I mean, after decades of sincere effort, the author still has this nagging sense of brokenness. And of course, all the shame that comes with it. The author has this perfect term for it, spiritual quicksand. You feel like you're doing everything you're supposed to do, meditating, therapy, all the work, but it just feels like you take one step forward and then two steps back. That anxiety, that depression, it just sticks around and you're left chasing this idea of a final cured version of yourself that never quite shows up. And this really highlights the fundamental conflict here. On one side, you've got this very Western therapeutic model. It's kind of like a repair paradigm, right? You identify the problem, you apply some kind of fix, and you expect a cure. But then on the other side is the actual lived reality, which for the author just doesn't line up with that model at all. And that mismatch, well, that just makes the feeling of failure even worse. Which, of course, leads to the big question, the one that creates so much shame for so many of us. After all this time, after all this work, shouldn't I be fixed by now? It's a question that assumes we are a problem that needs to be solved, instead of maybe a person that needs to be understood. But then, a turning point. Something shifts. It's sparked by the memory of an ancient story, the story of a layman named Vimalakīrti, who is found on his sickbed. Now, this is the really confusing explanation Vimalakīrti gives for why he's sick. At first, the author just kind of dismissed it. It sounded like spiritual bypassing, a fancy way to make suffering sound noble instead of just painful and human. It just didn't click. Why would an enlightened person be sick because of their enlightenment? And right here, this is the pivot. The powerful what if that changes absolutely everything. What if this feeling of being unwell, this sense of brokenness that just won't go away, what if it isn't a bug, but a feature? What if it's not a sign of failure, but a sign that the practice is actually working, just in a way we never, ever expected? That single question just cracks open this profound new possibility, that maybe this persistent illness isn't a personal problem at all. Maybe it's a form of deep, unavoidable connection. So this completely reframes Vimalakīrti's sickness. It's not a problem he needs to solve. It's a direct result of his awakening. See, the more he understands that everything is interconnected, the more he literally feels the world's suffering in his own body. From this point of view, his illness is his compassion made real. Okay, but let's be super clear here. This new perspective is not an excuse to just ignore the pain. This isn't spiritual bypassing. The depression is still real. The anxiety still needs our care and attention. The shift isn't in the reality of the pain, it's in what the pain means. And this shift in meaning, well, it doesn't just stay up in your head as a nice idea. It has these profound, real-world implications for how we live our lives, how we approach therapy, and what we think the whole point of our practice even is. And all of a sudden, personal struggles start to look different when you see them in a much larger context. Maybe your anxiety isn't just some personal chemical imbalance. Maybe it's a really sensitive and appropriate response to a world that is filled with uncertainty. Maybe your depression isn't just an individual issue. Maybe it's a form of grief for our fractured world. And this connects so perfectly to the concept of interbeing, which was taught so beautifully by Thich Nhat Hanh. Your nagging sense of being unwell might simply be an accurate perception of a world that is in fact unwell. You feel it because you aren't separate from it. So what this does is it completely flips the script. The goal shifts from individual repair to collective healing. Your personal work, whether it's in therapy or on a meditation cushion, it stops being just self-care and it becomes a form of world care. It's like you're tending to your own little corner of a much larger shared garden. And the effect of that is just so liberating. The immense pressure to finally achieve some perfect cured state of being, it just dissolves. The goal is no longer to become some unflappable wellness machine, but simply to show up for this moment's version of our shared healing. So, what does this all mean for how we actually walk through our lives?
It offers a new and I think a much more compassionate path forward.
I absolutely love this metaphor. Maybe that feeling of one step forward, two steps back, maybe it's not a sign that you're failing. Maybe it's just the natural way a sensitive person walks in solidarity with a limping world. The goal isn't to achieve a perfect stride, it's just to keep walking together. And this brings us right back to that final, profound realization. Maybe success in our practice, whether it's been 50 years or 5 months, isn't about getting rid of our brokenness. Maybe it's about cultivating a love, a compassion that is finally big enough to hold all of it, our own struggles and the world's, all at the same time.